Hello and welcome to HIA Phase 1, Screening. The purpose of screening is to assess the value, feasibility, and utility of the HIA in the decision-making process. In this phase, we are trying to determine if conducting an HIA will add value to the decision-making process. One question that often comes up in training is, how do I choose a topic for an HIA? Ideally, the questions will be generated through a community-driven process, such as the Community Health Improvement Plan, a protocol for assessing community excellence and environmental health, PACE, or through working with community-based advocacy organizations. Often the topic is raised by a staff member because the decisions may adversely affect communities where health and economic disparities already exist. As long as the HIA includes input and buy-in from the community, a connection to human health exists, and there is sufficient time and resources to complete the process before the decision is made, then it is a viable topic. The question we ask in screening allow us to make an informed decision as to whether an HIA is feasible and will be cost effective. If health is already being considered, then an analysis that dives deeper into the health implications would be sufficient. Feasibility is determined by the time frame of the decision under consideration, the personnel and financial resources to accomplish the HIA, and whether the decision makers are open to integrating information into the decision-making process. You also need to consider the depth and breadth of health impacts involved and the data available to measure them. Just as important as deciding when to do an HIA is deciding when not to do an HIA. Some decisions are made politically even though the formal decision has not been made. An example of this might be a school siting decision. If the school district has already purchased the land, then an HIA on siting would not be influential. Another time when it is not necessary to conduct an HIA is when there is no specific decision being considered. HIAs should not be used to spur the creation of policies or programs, but on specific proposals. Sometimes health is already being considered, like in the example on the slide. In this example, the City Commission is already thinking about health as it relates to access to fresh food. They commissioned a report on food deserts in their own town and asked the neighborhood for input on solutions. So, the decision is already considering health, but a target for the HIA might be, is a farmer's market the most health promoting solution to providing access to fresh food in this neighborhood? The first task in the screening phase is to determine the parameters of the HIA process. Set goals for the HIA by asking, what is it you hope to accomplish through the process, and what does success for this HIA look like? You also need to think about the political parameters by asking, what exactly is the decision the HIA is informing, and who is making the decision, as well as are there any outside political forces affecting the decision not accounted for already? The last major issue is to address the availability of data. Depending on the geographic level of the decision, the health data may not be available at the needed scale. If the HIA is examining the effects of a neighborhood program, health data may only be available at the county level. This is the phase where the determination has to be made on whether to go forward with these limitations. Next consideration in this type of scale of the HIA is to be conducted. To sum up, the screening phase is used to determine the feasibility of conducting an HIA on a particular topic. In deciding to go forward, three kinds of feasibility must be determined. Timing. Can the HIA be conducted in a rigorous manner and recommendations delivered before the decision is made? Political. Are decision makers open to recommendations of the HIA, or have the parameters already been determined? Resources. Are the people, time, and funding available to complete the HIA? And data. Is the data available on the neighborhood or community scale needed? These questions need to be answered in order to decide if an HIA should be performed. If the answer to these questions are yes, then the team proceeds to the scoping phase, the topic of the next video in this series.